Hey everyone, it's Freya, host of the Sharing English podcast, and welcome back to US Government Explained, the mini-series that takes a closer look at how the American system of government really works, from its founding principles to the modern debates shaping it today. In our last episode, we explored how the United States engages with international organizations and why those institutions matter. Today, we're taking a broader look at U.S. foreign policy, what it is, how it works, and why it affects people both inside and outside the United States. Foreign policy is the set of decisions a country makes about how it interacts with the rest of the world. That includes diplomacy, trade, military strategy, foreign aid, and international agreements. In simple terms, foreign policy is how a government protects its interests, builds relationships, and responds to global challenges. Although presidents and administrations change, many core goals of U.S. foreign policy have remained consistent for decades. These include protecting national security, supporting economic stability, maintaining alliances, preventing large-scale conflict, and promoting stability in key regions of the world. Different leaders may choose different methods, but the underlying concerns tend to stay the same. For much of the late 20th and early 21st century, U.S. foreign policy focused on active global engagement. The United States built long-term alliances, helped create international institutions, and maintained a strong diplomatic and military presence abroad. This approach reflected the belief that global stability and U.S. security were closely connected. Now, to understand how foreign policy actually works, it helps to look at who is involved. The president plays a central role, setting priorities and representing the United States on the global stage. The Secretary of State leads diplomacy, and the State Department manages embassies, negotiations, and relationships with foreign governments. Congress also plays an important role by controlling funding, approving treaties, and providing oversight. Foreign policy is shaped through cooperation and tension among these institutions. Not all foreign policy tools involve the military. The United States, just like most other countries, also relies on what is often called soft power, or influence built through cooperation rather than force. Programs like the Peace Corps send Americans abroad to work in education, health, and community development. Cultural exchanges, humanitarian aid, and educational programs all help build long-term relationships and shape how the United States is viewed around the world. Foreign policy also affects daily life inside the United States. Trade agreements influence jobs and prices. Diplomatic relationships can affect energy markets and supply chains. Decisions made abroad often shape immigration policy, travel rules, and national security measures at home. For Americans living or traveling overseas, foreign policy is even more direct. U.S. embassies help citizens during emergencies, provide legal and logistical support, and serve as a link between individuals and the federal government. Military bases and diplomatic missions can offer protection, but they can also create complex relationships with host countries. Foreign policy decisions also have real consequences for people in other countries. U.S. actions can influence access to aid, security cooperation, and economic opportunity. These actions may be welcomed by some and criticized by others, depending on historical experience and local conditions. Understanding this complexity is essential for making sense of global reactions to U.S. policy. In recent years, there have been noticeable changes in how the current administration approaches foreign policy. These include shifts in tone, changes in participation in international institutions, and a stronger connection between domestic or even personal political priorities and global engagement. Some long-standing practices have been questioned, while others have continued under new frameworks. This highlights an important feature of the U.S. system. Foreign policy can be both stable and flexible. Long-term goals often remain, but strategies and relationships can change quickly depending on leadership, public opinion, and global events. Looking ahead, U.S. foreign policy faces major challenges. Global health, climate change, cybersecurity, and shifting balances of power all require cooperation beyond national borders. How the United States chooses to engage with these challenges, whether now or in the future, will shape its role in the world for years to come. Foreign policy is not distant or abstract. It affects real people, real communities, and real lives, at home and abroad. Understanding how it works helps us better understand the choices governments make and the consequences of those choices. Next time will be most likely our last of this mini-series, and we'll bring the entire mini-series together, reflecting on how the U.S. system functions as a whole and why explaining it clearly has mattered so much to me, especially during a difficult and uncertain time in U.S. government. As always, thank you for joining me on this episode of U.S. Government Explained. You can find out more about us at our website, www.sharing-english.com/podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please consider following, sharing, or leaving a review. And as always, you can find our culture-focused episodes of the Sharing English podcast every Thursday. Until next time, bye.